Automation is the application of technology, program, robotic, or processes to create products with minimal human input. Automation often replaces human labor with machine of electronic systems to perform a task, especially those that are repetitive or time-consuming. The House will compass high tax on manufacturing companies that automate a significant portion of their work. As the first speaker, I propose a motion supporting the imposition of high tax on manufacturing companies that are automate a significant portion of their work. Firstly, we must understand what taxes are. Taxes are mandatory contributions to the state owned by individuals or entities, which are compulsory under law without receiving any direct compensation and are used for state purposes for the greatest prosperity of the people. Corporate tax is a form of contribution that every company must pay so that it can be used for state purposes. Now that we understand the meaning, we can return to the previous motion regarding the imposition of tax on companies that use extensive automation in their operation. Automation, in this case, not only bring progress, but this progress can also bring negative consequences. If left unregulated, it will create a social and even economic inequality, which can cause unrest in society. Opponents might argue that current tax and regulation can stifle innovation. However, as a proponent, I argue the opposite. The purpose of the tax imposed here is not directly or intentionally to hinder technological progress. Rather, we must ensure that the benefits generated from the progress we achieve are shared fairly. Automation may significantly improve efficiency and corporate image. I'm not asking or intending to force companies that don't comply to stop. I'm simply asking the CEO and companies owners to give back to the community that has provided them with the opportunities and have enabled them to thrive. Because if we look at the current situation in society, when a company replaces and lays off hundreds of human workers with sophisticated, unpaid robots and directly interests the profit of the companies and implementing this automation. But what happens to the workers who are laid off? And how can they provide for their families now if they are simply abandoned? They become a burden in society, increasing employment and potentially triggering social instability or inequality and declining welfare. These workers have worked for years and directly contributed to the company development. Now, if they were simply abandoned, it will undoubtedly lead to unthinkable conflict as companies were to do this on a massive scale. On the other hand, the tax and regulation imposed on their companies can contribute to the country, including being allocated to the state budgets. This is why tax and regulation is also important, as they can help balance income and support a national development. Funds collected from this tax can be allocated for several beneficial purposes, such as, firstly, national development. Tax allocated to the state budget will channel funds to the various national development missions, such as providing new facilities, improving facilities, and providing assistance to the education sector. And number two, social stabilization. This tax can be allocated to the social assistance, such as educational assistance and assistance for underprivileged and meet their living needs. And number three, investment. The funds generated from this can to be used for investment in sectors that are difficult or even impossible to automate, such as education, healthcare, and public services. This helps offset the negative impacts of the automation and further the creation of a creative economy. However, it is to allow a few. Long-term competitive advantage is determined not only by the lowest production cost, but also by social stability, a skilled workforce, and a strong domestic market. With direct investment of these tax, we can create a more stable and productive society, which will ultimately create a better environment for business to thrive. Furthermore, this motion also promotes corporate social responsibility. Large companies have an ethical responsibility not only to maximize the profits but also to contribute positively to the communities in which they operate. This takes a way to ensure that this responsibility is met. We are not talking about a punitive tax, but about a fair and strategic tax. It is a tax that recognizes the reality that automation shifts value from human labor to technology. Therefore, we must ensure that the benefits of the shift are not only enjoyed by a few shareholders, but are used to support and empower the entire community. We are ensured that the era of the automation is one that brings prosperity to all, not just a select few. Therefore, we strongly urge the Council to support this motion. Thank you.